Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Now, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and just then there appeared a woman with a spirit, I prefer to say demon from the other writings, that crippled her for 18 years. She was bent over and was quite unable to stand up straight. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." When he laid his hands on her, immediately she stood up straight and began praising God. But the leader of the synagogue, indignant because Jesus had cured on the Sabbath, kept saying to the crowd, "There are 6 days on which work ought to be done. Come on those days and be cured, not on the Sabbath day." But the Lord answered him and said, "You hypocrites! Does not each one of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or his donkey from the manger and lead it to water? And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan bound for 18 long years, be set free from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" When he said this, all his opponents were put to shame, and the entire crowd was rejoicing at all the wonderful things being done by him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
So, just a quick intro. My friend Jerry Pushko would harass Pastor Brownhamel about the number of pages in the sermon, how many pages there were. So, Jerry, if you're listening, there's only 4 pages, large font, double space. Okay? So we're good there. Okay.
And no choir anthem.
Jerry would be okay.
Jerry would be okay with it, right?
And under 12 minutes.
So, when Pastor asked me to preach at today's worship, mischievous, smart aleck, wise guy part of me said, "Oh yeah, here we go. This is it. I'm going to go all dynamis and bring in the Right Reverend Dr. Billy Saul Hargis from the First Church in Del Rio, Texas, old buckle of the Bible belt, and try and sell Jesus merch to all of you nice people." So, anybody my age, plus or minus 10 years, remembers Dr. Billy Saul Hargis. Okay. He saved us from many mind-numbing hours of commuting, and we remember Billy Saul. But, so Kathy was relieved, because I was definitely going to go for it, but maybe in the future. But the lesson didn't lend itself to that, but maybe in the future it will. But who knew? So then I threatened to go all Midwest, itinerant preacher, tent preacher, with hellfire raining, hellfire and brimstone down on all you heathens. And at that point, knowing me like she knows me, she got a little worried. Well, who knew? The second reading from Hebrews has hellfire, brimstone, including stoning to death, terrifying things, trembling with fear, shaking of earth and heaven, and consuming fire. So let's speak to that first. Sum it all up. Accountability, right? The first covenant was for the one for the Jews. It was the first 5 books of the Bible, right? And with emphasis on Leviticus being all these rules and regulations. If you followed the rules and regulations to the letter, that was your pathway to heaven. Deviate, hellfire and brimstone, is where you end up. So, my interpretation of that was that God is keeping score. But since no one is perfect, it's impossible to follow them perfectly. From Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The apostles recognize that. So what happens? Of course, exceptions. For example, the rule, a Sabbath day's journey. Sabbath day's journey was how far a person was allowed to travel from their residence on the Sabbath, which is a kilometer-ish. But if you took a Sabbath meal and placed it at the furthest point, that became your effective Sabbath residence, meaning you could travel to that and further on as you wanted. So you could do that ad infinitum if you wanted, right? So we're all human, and we all do it. We all come up with exceptions. Kind of sounds like 60 and a 55, right? The rule is clear. All right, the interpretation is kind of fluid, right? Okay. So, first reading from Isaiah 58, 9 and 10. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted. So when removing the burden from others, offering food to the hungry, satisfying the afflicted, it speaks of all the good things God will do for you. But this does not mean we have to be large and dramatic in the good things we do. We don't have to find a car burning and rip people out of burning cars. All right? You don't have to climb the tallest tree in the township and grab the little kitten that's up there and bring it to the ground. Okay? Not necessary. It's like, so we're coming back to stuff, I mean, I know, right? So refer to me. Like cutting the lawn at church. See, Jerry did that? It's like cutting the lawn at church. It takes 4 hours, but approach it the right way, and it's okay. Stephanie, my daughter, saw me cutting the lawn the other day, and she said, Dad, that looks kind of mindful and zen. Yeah, actually it is. I love volunteering, teaching, adaptive skiing. It takes me so far out of my comfort zone and introduced me to a community I knew, a wonderful community I knew nothing about. Both of those take time, effort, and some cash, but I get so much out of it, and they satisfy Isaiah 58, 9, 10. And in doing so, make my day. So it's a win-win. So look at your own life. We all have opportunities abound. Opportunities are out there. If you haven't already, take the leap at one of those opportunities. So now referring back to the Sabbath in verse 58, 13, 14. It says, keep the holy day honorable, not pursuing own affairs or interests. Sitting there reading it, looking closely at it, it noticeably leaves out helping others as a restriction on the Sabbath. The synagogue leader missed that. Now we get to the gospel reading. Jesus heals the crippled woman on the Sabbath, and the leader of the synagogue was all ticked off about it. But knowing what we know about exceptions, Jesus understandably calls him a hypocrite. Now the Jesus that I know, pretty much the guy from The Chosen, the series The Chosen. That. Thank you, Barbara Donald. Thank you, Barbara Donald, for turning me on to that. He also used some other choice words to the synagogue leader, as well as possibly a hand gesture, not term commonly used in polite society. But in fairness to this leader, Jesus was a disruptor. And I've gone down that road, and I'm confident everybody else had. That's not the way we do it. The old way is the better way. Well, let's not rock the boat. I've been dragged kicking and bucking into a new path to do something, only to find out, that is a better way. Now, the old ways, and sometimes the old way is a better way, but there can be a better way. In this case, not this time. Making a person who is suffering wait another day for the sake of an old rule is cruel and contrary to Isaiah 58, 9, 10. The healed woman glorified God. She did not care about being healed on the Sabbath. Now, once real hypocrisy, figure that the synagogue leader came down with some horrible, terrible disease. And Jesus happened to be nearby on the Sabbath. I wonder what his view on Sabbath healing would become. Right. Now, circle back to the second lesson. It was interesting. Reading these 3 lessons seemed so different, but they all kept going back to each other. The one with the darkness, the gloom, tempests. Read further down, Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant. So what is the new covenant? It's God's grace and forgiveness through Jesus' sacrifice. Jesus' commandment in this covenant is to love one another as I have loved you. Healing someone physically or spiritually is a wonderful expression of love and is completely in line with Isaiah 58, 9, 10. So in conclusion, Jesus made our lives incredibly more simple by moving the relative importance of tedious rules and regulations to be looked at through the lens of love one another as I have loved you. Remember, simpler is not necessarily easier, and love one another as I have loved you is simple, but not at all easy. But the rewards are abundant. Amen.
Amen.